Alright, you lot. How's it going? Evening chat. Just looking at my lappy screen now just to see who's in, because we've got a few in there. Hope you're all well. You're probably going to get this in about 30 seconds really, because there's the 30-second turnaround on what I say to hitting your ears type thing. Yeah, he's here with me again. Look, this chap.
Sorry, I'm looking gimp. Yeah, looking gimp, trying to work out where exactly the hell we are. We're live.
Well, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Hello. And you're over there.
Yep, and we're live. I've just seen it all pop up. We're all good.
Oh yeah, we're all good. We're live. It's all happening.
Apparently.
Ooh, Leanna, I hope your cat doesn't start the large smelly poo tomorrow either. Poor thing. Nothing worse than smelly cat poo. But there you go. I don't like sick cats. No, not good. Yes, so we're going to go start the show soon. Something like that. And we've got all sorts of what have you coming up. Let me just scroll down on my chat. There we go. Hello, Chief. Again, in another chat. No, Leanna, nobody wants to talk poo, please. No. So it's a bit of a shit topic. Trevor G. Ridian, isn't it? Wasn't it? Lovely. Ridian's in the house. And yes. Who else is there? Bernice. Hello, Bernice. And Costello and Rob and Ashley and me. That's actually me. I'm not logged in. But there you go. It's all good. I make it about 5 seconds to go to 9 o'clock, but we'll just kind of, yeah.
Wing it.
Go with it. Wing it, as he said. Yeah. Well, let's wing it, Gary. Yeah.
Wing it. Best way. Wing it.
Yeah. So we must start doing longer pre-shows. What do you think?
I reckon.
Yeah. So we can, chat. See, what happens is, me and him just kind of chat for half an hour before the show, and then we kick it off. So, it all happens. So tonight, we've got all sorts of stuff. And I've got one of these here, which is a QI charging thing, which you'll see in the second half. But think about some titles. What do you reckon, Gary? Titles?
It's about that time.
Titles. Yeah. Okay. Let's kick it off. This is Vapor Trolls TV, and this is Vaperscene.
Vaperscene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock, and it is Tuesday the 19th of May 2015. I was just chortling there to Gary saying I must redo the titles and spell his name right, because it's only got one R in it, and I keep meaning to, but I never get around to it. There's little bits, little stings you'll see. In one time it'll say Gary with 2 R's, and one time it'll say Gary with 1 R, and he still calls me Marco and spells it with a K though, so there you go. So yes, good evening chat. And I'm just looking to see who else has appeared. Good evening, Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit. Not seen you in before. So yeah, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome. We like it. And tonight we've got kind of a selection really. We're going to look at some juices, and these are the juices that we got at Vapejam from the Captain's Reserve from Ollie, who he might be smoking a bandit, I don't know. Yes, so Garry and I got a few juices to look at. Now the strange thing is that the one I've got 18 milligram, and Gary's got the same juice, but he's got 0 nic. So that's going to be quite interesting. So we're going to look at one over the next few weeks and kind of mix up and do a few juicy juices, because we didn't do that many juicy juices last year. So we did the ones for the election special, which was quite fun, I have to say. So I said to Garry, right, next week we're going to use this juice, get it in, and get vaping on it. And I've been vaping on the one we're looking at tonight for over a week, and I've finished the bottle now. I've got a little bit left. Which one is it? It's in there. Yeah, I've probably got about 2 mils left of it. It's rather tasty. But before we do that, how have you been this week, Garry? Let me put you on big camera, Garry.
Oh, not big. You don't want to scare people, mate. Yeah, I've been good. It's been it's been an interesting week. Just busy. I'm still being a juice whore, which I never thought I was.
Stop using that word.
Oh, sorry, yeah, but it's what I feel like at the moment. No, I've been trying lots of different things again this week in different devices, and yes, it's weird. After 6 and a bit years of vaping, all of a sudden my whole world seemed to have opened up yet again.
Yes, I have to say, you know that I mix a lot of my own juices, but I am quite partial to other ones as well. There's certain ones that I buy all the time, but I'm always having a go at other ones. If I see one that takes my fancy, I'll buy a bottle and see what it's like. So I don't just stick to making my own. The range of flavours that I've got, I can make quite a few different flavour combinations. But it is nice as well to buy a pre-made juice, because sometimes they can really, just grab you and get your attention with the flavour and the taste combinations, which is quite good. And I did like, as we talked about the past few weeks, the TW election special juices. A couple of those were really nice. I do like the odd XO juice, but I'll give most things a try, I have to say. Even 0 nic for the flavour, but I do prefer to have the old nicotine in it, which is good. And this particular one that we're going to try tonight goes quite well with what I'm drinking, which is Krabby's alcoholic ginger ale, ginger beer. Other alcoholic ginger beers are probably available. In fact, they are available, and I've tried quite a few of them. So it's ginger beer this week instead of cider. Yeah, I thought I'd have a change. But it is weird. Just before we go on to the actual juice, it is weird how juices go with some things. And I mentioned on a vapor trail piece I did 18 months ago that eating chocolate and then vaping is rank. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm not a chocolate person, really. I very rarely eat chocolate. I never get a chance in my house. I've got a 7-year-old daughter, so as soon as the wife fills up the chocolate box, it's empty. So yeah, I'd never eat it, to be honest with you. Ah, well, there you go. I just noticed in our chat that my volume is a little bit low, so I've tweaked it slightly. I hope that is better. Let me know. Type in chat, either in the main chat or the guys can type in our Skype chat. I've just turned up my gain a little bit. I'm trying to avoid the noise from the PC, from the multitude of fans that keep it cool. Yes, I didn't actually build the PC to do this job. I built it for something else, for gaming. And for gaming, I need it really, really cool. But there you go. It's all good. Yes, I've noticed that coffee goes well with some drinks. Beer goes with some vapes. Beer goes well with some, but chocolate and then vaping, no, doesn't work for me. But there you go. But I do like a chocolate vape, yes. Which leads us quite kind of nicely onto the juice we're going to look at this week. Shall we do it, Garry?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I've prepared a special sting, especially for this juice. And here it is.
Well, shiver me timbers, and splice that main brace. It be juicy, juicy. And let's see what's in the treasure chest this week. Ha 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 ha.
Sorry, I was mucking about earlier, and I thought I'd just put a little juicy together. Yes, we're looking at the Captain's juice, Captain's Reserve juice that we got at Vapejam. And there's 6 in the range. And there's nice little skull bottles if you buy the big bottles, which are quite nice. And you will have seen on the various VTs, there was a lovely shot of the display cabinet with the big bottles, the big skulls in, which was really nice. But we're going to look at this one tonight, which is called Monkey Business. Yes. And before I show you what flavours it's supposed to be, Garry, give me what you've got from it so far.
Now, I filled this up yesterday. I'm running this in the Aspire BBC with a 1.8 ohm coil and at about 16 watts. And this is the zero nick liquid, which I had to double check, to be honest with you. I was surprised. Could I vape zero nick? Yes, I damn well could, I think, after this for a day. But it was an interesting one for me because I didn't read the description and had a little taste. I'm going to have another one now, just so it's fresh in my mind. And if you like, the biggest flavour that I'm getting from this one is it's nuts. I have nuts in my mouth, and it's a different nut. I mean, I've had nutty juices, as Mr. Sutton has in his time, but this one is a more of a toasted nut, and there's I'm getting a definitive toasty nut flavour, but it seems to be sort of rounded off with now the banana isn't that prominent to me, but I'm definitely getting sort of a banana creamy sort of aftertaste on the exhale. But for me, if I found and after I read it, I've played with various wattages, and it is true, if you turn down the wattage, you get a completely sort of different set of flavours, and I get a chocolatey aftertaste. Now, I'm not a chocolatey person, but it is quite a pleasant one. It's not a very, sometimes chocolate can be synthesised. It seems to be a nice sort of rounded lower, but I like it up around 16 watts, and I'm loving the toasted nut and the sort of rounded, creamy banana-y finish. That's my impression.
Well, I'm sorry I don't do impressions, but what I can tell you is when I first started vaping it, I did pick up the banana, but that kind of disappears once you've been vaping on it for a while, and you get the nut, and it is a really nice nutty taste, as you said. I don't particularly get chocolate, which is strange because I think I've got a reasonably good palate. However, for me, the overriding flavour is the nuttiness. Now I've got on a 0.17 coil, 13 watts, and it's at 370 degrees, and I mucked about on the RDNA 40 with different temperatures. I took it up to 460, and that really turned it into a harsh vape. And I took it down to 310, and that didn't do it. But 370 seems to be, on this coil, on this setup, seems to be quite good. And I've got the air probably about 3/4 on this Subtank Plus. But like I said, this is the second time I've filled this up. So I've gone through the entire bottle. I'm rather enjoying it, I have to say. And what I've been doing is I've been swapping with the other RDNA. I've got some candy cane in this one, which is a kind of a mentally minty vape. And then I go back, because I do find, as I say time and time again, your taste buds get used to the taste, to the flavour, and then they turn off. They kind of go to sleep thinking, oh, you know, I've got that taste now, give me something else. So I kind of muck about and get another one. And I'm just fortunate that I managed to pick up another RDNA 40 at Vapejam. Yes. So I've moved my silicon mod cover onto the new one, because the other one is beat up. But you'll see a bit more of that in the bit of VT that's coming up in part 2. So for me, yes, this is what it actually says on the website. Monkeys are superior to men in this. When a monkey looks into a mirror, he sees a monkey. The whole crew went absolutely bananas when making this nuts concoction of creamy goodness. This well-balanced taste of smooth, creamy and rich peanut butter and banana cream is accompanied by a subtle hint of velvety chocolate, which is discovered when vaping at the lower end of the ohm spectrum. A firm favourite of many when asked for their free vape all-day vape. Oh, preferred all-day vape, sorry. I couldn't see that on the screen. Yes, and I have to agree, it's a really nice juice.
It's a good one.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, when we look at a juice, Spider Venom was one that I really, really hated, but Davey really, really loved. And we had the same thing with the election special juices. There were some that I didn't particularly care for, like the Farage's Lunchtime Tipple, but Garry, you really liked that one. Yeah, we both agree this is quite a nice one. Any final thoughts on it, Garry?
No, I like it. I don't think, for me, for my own personal sort of taste buds, it's an all day job, but it's one that I could definitely see myself dipping in and out of. Like you say, you have your all day vape, but then by the end of the day, that sort of is floating away in the distance, and just to have a change, that's quite a nice, refreshing, nutty. I wasn't, you know, I've not been into me nuts for a while, and it's the first one I've had that sort of it's nice, and I like that toasted element to it. I've not tasted that before, and that I like a lot.
Yes, I was just looking at chat there as you were talking. What did I nick, Neil? I don't know. It says, oh, it was Marco that nicked it. I don't know what that was. It's gone past the other bit, so I don't know what that was about. Maybe I'll spot it if Neil tells me. But yes, rather enjoyable. Now, what do you want to look at next week? Have you got the list?
I have, yeah. I'm sort of thinking that the cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder. Okay. Top left-hand corner, and the link can go into chat, guys, for the site if you want to have a look yourself. Rather nice site as well, and I did pinch a bit of their graphics for the Juicy sting there, which Ollie very kindly let me pinch. But yes, we'll look at another Captain's Reserve next week, and then the following week we'll look at another one, and then we'll kind of mix them up a little bit, so we've got some different ones, give you some different options, and tell you what we think about the particular juices. I was just looking at my clock there to see what time it was. And I'm just looking again in chat to see if that's come up there. Yeah, kids are like Strawberry Fields, and that's one of your favourite ones, isn't it? Strawberry Fields. And
it is, yeah.
Fields. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them, and the Slammer. I switch between a lot of those. Those are my, if you like, my all days, and have been since just after Vape Fest last year. And I am going to have to grow a beard probably after this weekend because I've ordered a DNA 40 chip.
Well,
and I'm going to I've got the Hannah. Well, it's not. It's the dodgy one. If I say that. It's a case in the style of that's got a DNA 30 in, and I'm going to give that a little upgrade to a 40. And I've got me Nico Chromie Doofy Watsits en route. So hopefully next week I shall have a temperature controlled mod if I get 5 minutes spare at some point in the next week.
Smashing. And I must send you those DNA 40 chip rails that Matt made you. Yes, so that was that for this week. And we will go into the break, And when we come back, we've got some more good stuff. Yeah, so we'll see you in 2.
Vaperscene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
And now it's back to Vaperscene on Vapor Trails TV. Vaperscene is sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
And we're back. Hello. Just chatting to Garry there during the advert break. Coming up now, you should be able to see this. It's here. It's been sat here all along. This is a little QI charger that our very own Matt and Garry very kindly printed on his 3D printer for me. And I purchased the other bits that I needed to put it together. Because if you remember on the VT I showed you a few weeks ago, had the USB charger with the QI built on, and you had to put the mod flat. Well, now I can stand my DNA40s, RDNA40s upright, and they will charge, as you heard it beep just then as I put it on. So have a little look at this, and we'll see you in a few.
At Vapejam, Matt Garry had very kindly printed me a DNA40 charging stand, and here it is. Yeah, let me zoom in a little bit for you, and then you can see it in all its glory. This was printed on Matt's 3D printer, yeah, and it is one complete piece, including the bit round the back where the cable goes, as you can see, and the recess on the front to fit the QI charger. Now, this was specifically designed to fit the Vapejam QI charger, and I didn't have one. And I had all sorts of searches going on the various sites looking for a QI charging plate, but they were all like 69 millimeters. And this isn't designed for that. This is a lot smaller. In fact, the ruler comes out, and the diameter, I'll get that on there, it's kind of 62 inside diameter. So you do need the Vapershark QI plate. Let me zoom out a little bit, because now we're too tight on. There we go. So while I was at Vapejam, I went to the Vapershark stand, and not only did I buy the next Vapershark, which is the one with the larger screen, that way around, one with the larger screen, as opposed to my original one with the smaller screen. Yes, so I've now got two. As I said, I really wanted another one, and you can tell this is the older one because it is a bit battered. The paint's rubbing off, so I've put the silicone cover I had on this one onto this because I completely forgot to get another silicone sleeve for the new one. So there you go. So I'm running 2 RBA sub tanks at the same time, which is quite handy. Now, the USB charger I showed you a couple of weeks ago with the built-in QI does charge, and there you go, it is charging the new one through the skin, but you have to have it flat, whereas with this little device you can put it upright, which is much better. So here's what we're going to do. I got the Vapershark, and that came with a little USB extension cable, which is handy because the cable you have inside is quite short. So we'll just hoik this out. I've taken it out already, as you may already guessed. So we'll just move those to one side. And here we have the QI plate. As you can see, if I zoom out a little bit more, you can see the length of the cable that you get. In fact, I'll measure it for you, just so we all know exactly how long it is. And from USB plug to the device is 11.5 inches. That's what you get. But obviously, once it's around this device here, it is going to be a little bit shorter. So you'd need to use the extension cable if it's going to be a decent distance from your USB charger. So fitting this is simplicity itself. And by the way, we can make available the links. I'll make available the link to this. So if you've got a 3D printer yourself, or you've got a friend who's got a 3D printer like we have, we'll give you the link to the mod files for this, because they're freely available. We'll put those in chat for you so you can get it done. And Matt was going to do me one in luminous green, but that will have disappeared when I showed you in the studio, obviously, because I use green screen. The other thing that would be handy is a really good sanding with some fine paper to get a nice smooth finish, and maybe a dip in paint or something. I'm not exactly sure what I can and can't use on this plastic, so for now I'm just going to do this way. So fitting it is really easy. You just put the USB cable through the back and feed in your QI charging plate, and let me zoom in on at this point, and then you will see, there we go, nice tight in. You'll see that there's a gap there for the cable to go, so you just need to match that slot up with the QI plate, push the QI plate in, and you'll see it's nice and snug on the front there. And then it's just a case of feeding your cable through the little channel and then down the back of it, thus, and there you go. And then that then goes out to your charger. The downside is every time you move it, this cable comes out. So I've made a couple of little things which I'll show you next. What I was going to do was use a piece of wood like this. This is just a piece of pine. In fact, this is an old bed slat when I trashed one of the old beds and threw it in the skip. I kept the slats because they're quite handy for little projects. And what I thought I could do is mount it, if I turn it around that way, mount it on a piece of wood, cut to size, or maybe you know, have a little plinth like that, and then chop out some of the wood so there's a little plinth for that would fit inside here, just a little tad, just to keep it in place. But also what you could do is drill a few holes and melt up some lead, being careful you don't inhale the fumes, obviously. Or you could use some fishing shot or what have you. Just drill some holes, fill it up, and then seal them off, and that would give you a weighted base, which would look nice. So I might do that like in a little future project. Haven't really got the tools around at the moment to do it, and I just lop this off with my rough saw, just to give you an example. But a nice piece of stone, even cut to size and polished off and then glued on, would look rather nice, and it would stop it from falling over. What I have done, just get the dust out of the way. What I have done though is I've got some craft card, just some black craft card. I'll zoom out again for you. I got some A4 sheets with the intention of making a little cover for my sat nav, just to fit over, to stop the reflection hitting my windscreen at the night time, because my dashboard camera picks up the reflection of that, and it's a bit off-putting if you need to use the footage for you know, like an accident claim or what have you. So I made one myself, which is a little bit Heath Robinson, but I was going to design and build one just to slot over, with company that would fold out, that kind of thing. A little bit like I have for my camera field monitor, which I haven't got to hand, but I can show you at a later date. So what I've done is I've cut out some little sections, and I've cut these out oversized, and what I do is stick those to the back and the bottom of this. I've also made another little one, which is going to fit inside there. And originally I'd cut out some little squares, or little oblongs of corrugated cardboard, which were going to go in first, thus, and then a piece of black on the top, to finish it off and just give the mods something to rest on. However, when you use those, the mod doesn't line up with the QI plate correctly and won't charge. So I've had to ditch that idea. So instead, this is going to fit on the bottom, like that. Gives you a nice little black cover, and then this will fit on the back. And then once it's all glued in place, I'll trim off the excess with a craft knife, and that'll just give you a little plate and also keep the cable tidy. So I'm going to go ahead and glue all these in place, finish it off, and we'll come back and I'll show you the finished article. Yes, as Gary Dibley would say, see you in 2. And we're back in the room, and here is my little charging stand. As you can see, I've put a back on it and put a bottom on it. Cable is hanging out the bottom there. I've also put in a little insert, and it sits relatively okay. It is very light, that's the problem. Hence I really want to put it on something heavy to hold it down. But for now, that's done. And what I've done is I've used double-sided sticky tape as opposed to glue, because then that makes it easier to get this off. And I've not glued in the cable. I've used some electrician's tape just to hold that in place, again, just in case I do need to take it apart, or when I want to build something a little bit better, because I really would like to get this to a really nice finish, maybe paint it if I can get the right paint, and just make it look really nice. Also maybe move the channel, just take a little groove out so the USB goes to the side as opposed to from the back. But for now, that is working quite nicely. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring in my USB charger, and if you remember on the last video when I showed you the chargers, etc., I used one of these, a little USB power meter, and I said I couldn't tell you what this was pumping out. Well, I can tell you what this is. So we'll plug the power meter into the device, and you can see, if I zoom in a little bit, move that out of the way, you can see that this is pumping out 5.26 volts at the moment, and there's 0 amps going through it. And if I zoom out so I can get everything into shot, there we go. So if I plug in our little charger into this, will I get it right first time this time? Yay! So currently this is plugged in. The red light is on. You can see the red light on there, but it's not pulling any power. So if I offer up my RDNA 40 V2, you can hear it beep, and it's now pulling 1.4-ish amps, which it was doing when we plugged it in via USB. And obviously you can see that this works with the skin. Slot it in, and away you go. The light on the front blinks green, and you'll also see the light on the RDNA 40 device glow red. That goes green when it's fully charged. So there you go. Let's just offer up the other DNA 40, and again go straight in there, but weirdly enough only pulling 1.25 amps. And that's more than likely because the battery is almost fully charged on this one, because I charged it recently. So there you are. That's a nice little addition to my charging capabilities. So now I'll have the QI charger on the top for my next phone, which is more than likely going to be the new Samsung Galaxy S6. And then I've got my stand-up QI charger courtesy of Mr. Matt and Garry, who printed it out for me, and Vapejam, where I purchased the QI charging plate when I bought my second RDNA 40. It fits nicely with the sleeve on, I have to say. It's snugger, which is good. But now, even if I pick it up, it's not going to fall out the bottom because I've put the card on, and there's 2 layers of card. So, yes, a little bit of modification for, not much money. I don't know, 50p for the piece of card or something. So, I think that works quite well. Let's go back to the studio.
And there you go. Yes, that was my little 3D printed QI mod stand, courtesy of Mr. Garry. And this is the mod itself. The instructions and stuff and the files are at this web page, which somebody will very kindly show into chat for me. So if you do have a 3D printer, or you've got somebody who's got one, like we have, they can download that file and print you one off. And I know Dave K has got a glow-in-the-dark one, the luminous green one, but like I said there, you wouldn't see it here if I had the luminous green one, so I went for the black one instead. What do you make of that, Garry?
Yeah, I'd need a 3D printer. I keep saying it, but yeah, it's cracking, isn't it? I was surprised at it was good to see the amp on there. Nice bit of kit, and like I was saying to you, it's pretty much charging at the same rate as it was doing which I didn't think it would do.
I didn't think it would either, but it does.
Yeah, which is in the idea of that, because I'm afraid it leads over, I think.
This is in sync.
New dripper.
Is 6,000 times less carcinogens than cigarette smoke.
Said, would
Right then, for some reason the connection went all crazy. I don't know why. So hopefully you can see us again. Yes. And I do apologise for the slight wobble there with the signal. Try and refresh, refresh, but you can't see me to refresh. So Dave K says, do refresh, folks. Yes, that's what we need to do. And hopefully we'll be okay. It's all good this end now. All good. Kizzy says all good. Yay. It was Bee's fault because she was mentioning naughty things earlier and the broadband took offence and went and sat on the naughty step. Yeah. So apologies for the slight break in transmission there. We were during the ads, so which is good. So the ads are in there, but we didn't miss any of the good stuff, which is good. So hopefully we're in sync as well. Yes. So as I started to play, but I will start again. We have this week's edition of MFT with Mr. Garry Dibley. Yes, do enjoy.
And we are back in the room once again. It's the week after Vapejam. Many videos have been out, obviously, and there is still loads and loads and loads more footage to come. And at some point tonight, we may or may not have been trying some of the juices that we gained while there. Now, this week, I'm following on from Vapejam because I was given this by our very own Davey Mellick. Now, apparently somebody walked up to him in Vapejam and said, "There you go, Davey, have a crack at that." He had a look inside, and I'm not going to knock this in the slightest, but he had a look inside and said, "Would you do me a favour, Mr. Dibley, and would you take that away and check it's safe and this, that and the other before I use it?" Which was good. But this is a proper old retro, I'm going to call this is now retro. It's amazing. And I'll show you through this. I've done it before. There's a couple of things that stick out instantly to me, which are purely cosmetic and nothing to do with the build quality. Is the switch. Now I don't know how far I can get down, but the switch there is sitting really proud, and the rubber grommet has been put on the wrong side of the switch. But that's just anal. That's analness. That's nothing. And the other thing for me is that if you give it the right side a shake, the battery lid comes off. Now this is very reminiscent to me of what was once called, I believe an America made thing called a splash box, and there was a guy in the UK doing these years ago, but I don't know if this is one of theirs. It uses a chipset and a format that I have used extensively, which is a little DC to DC converter. Basically it can take any voltage-ish within reason in, and it regulates it on the output via normally there was a pot on the board. Now this one has had a pot put on the external, which basically trims it up and down for your voltage output. There are some things in here that I wouldn't have done personally, and I'll show you through that. One of which is, before I go into this, it's sort of, this has brought back some memories for me, and it's made me go down a bit of a sort of a modding journey, because this is, or was, this exact format was the VV mod of its time, and in this format I made many tins, and many people, me and Mark, used to have much fun with this type of board layout and setup. It was good. Standard battery holder, DC to DC converter, a display, and a pot and a switch, and you could have much fun with different layouts on that. It sort of gave me a little sort of thing, and I'm not going to criticise this, because I know there were some fears about the stuff used for fixing, and whether it's toxic or not, and all that sort of stuff. Now this is Milput, and it's a form of epoxy, and this is how we used to do stuff. You know, this stuff could hold a connector rock solid. It wasn't affected by juice and all that sort of stuff. I'll give you an example, because my first ever mod was a 14. Yeah, I say my first ever mod. It was my first ever torch mod, and this is it. And it's not pretty. It's a it was a torch. It was a torch from the pound shop. It had a switch from Matt Lens. It had a 901 connector in the top and a 901 out. Used to sit on the, you know, aloft that, and you press the vapey, and this was one of my first ever torch mods. And at the time, you can sort of see the similarity. It was the mill put stuff, you know, and there was not many fears about using it. It wasn't going to come in contact with the juice and all that. When it's curing, you know, it can give off fumes and all that sort of stuff. But once it's all set, it's relatively good. And I'll give you an example of that, because I actually made one that I called the Pebble. And this one here, with a 306 aloft and a top switch, was moulded for my hand. And it was exactly, that's how I did it. It was a load of that sort of stuff, but in a different colour, made exactly to the shape of my hand. And that is the most comfortable 306 device I had. And it had a little, you see the window in there? There's a window in there, and it had a USB port on the bottom, and it used some USB charging circuitry, and you put that in and it would charge up and all that sort of stuff. Not very good in terms of venting, because obviously it's a solid lump of stuff, but I've never had a problem with it, and I still use it occasionally, and it charges up well and it fires the 306 well, but it's as flat as a fart at the moment. I then sort of went on to varying box mods, and this one here was a I hate to say it, I never sold these, but this was a clone of a wet box, and a wet box was one of the first squonky jobbies to be out there. As you can see, there's a needle sticking out the end of that, and that comes up through the 510 connector, and there's a little juice bottle in there. So this was a really early 14500 squonky device. Why am I showing you these? It's because these are shocking. They're bad. They were made bad, but we all learn as we go along. Now, this one here, I said there were a couple of things that I wouldn't have done, and I've been tracing the circuit through. One of the things that I always used to do, and with a box of this type, they come with, and this is an identical box, very thin wires on. I always used to strip these out and replace them with whatever gauge wire I was working on within a box. Simple as. I always used to. It was just habit. This one here has the same, same wiring as this one. So it's a hell of a lot thinner, and it wasn't up to much cop, to be honest with you. The other thing is, and I'll show you how we trace this circuit through. I always used to switch the input, so effectively on the switch here I would switch the voltage into the board. So if that switch wasn't pressed, nothing was getting used, nothing was in action, which to me sort of made the mod a hell of a lot more durable, usable. It lasted a lot longer, so did the circuitry, and a lot of other modders sort of followed suit. So with something like this DC to DC converter, and again it's for me personally, I always used to switch the input of the board. Now I'll show you why, and I'm going to pop a couple of matched batteries that I used to use these for, and if I press the button, you will see I've got 5 and a bit volts out on there, and if I twist my knob ever so slightly, 5 volts, 5.1, and you can't see that. So it's working. Does it vape? Let me clag an atty on it, and I know that this thing here I've got set to a certain wattage, and that is round about 5.1. The other thing that was a pain in the bum was getting them to
sit straight. As you can see, ever so slightly wonky. But it vapes, and it vapes well, which was and is the aim of making a mod yourself. If it works, you're happy with it and all that sort of stuff, you know, and it's safe, it's good. This is the whole reason I started doing videos about modding. Now what I'm going to do is just drop this out ever so slightly, and I'll show you, because we're talking about tracing circuits, I'll show you how I trace this circuit through. Basically the inputs on the board down at this bottom end here, and you will see on my inputs I've got 8.3 volts. Got my prongs around the wrong way. Doesn't matter because the flute can cope. 8.4. So that is effectively sort of 2 batteries at 4.2, 4.1, whatever, stacked up to give you your input. And you needed a greater input on these boards to get your output. Now when you come to the output of this board, if I go on the pos, which is the pos for the output, and the switched input, you'll see I've got my 5.1 coming out. So basically that's a constant. There's you know, 8 volts going in, 5 volts going out constantly. Yes, they're not being used, but it's there. And what I would have done personally is change that switch to switch the input voltage. So this would only activate the circuit when that was pressed. At the moment it's constantly working. It's not taking, there's no drain going off it, but it's constantly working. So I've constantly got an 8.4 volt in, and I've got a constant without doing anything, 5.1 out. Neg wire goes up to the neg, and then that's probably jeweled off back up to the display as we used to do. I'll just see what we can show you that. So my neg wire up to the neg of the ATI, that's probably twisted together and going out to the display, and the POS feed is coming straight off the board to there and also to the display. So effectively the switch is switching the display, so when I press that button it's turning the display on, because it's completing the back end of the circuit rather than the front end of the circuit. And to try and explain that a little bit more, what I mean is when you have a mod such as a torch mod, and you have your batteries in there, nothing's happening until you press the button, and that's the way that I personally would prefer to see this wired. So the switch is controlling the input voltage rather than just turning it on, because there's a constant voltage there on the output. Did you get me? Now Davey said to me, is it safe? Can I use it? And to be honest with you, there's nothing in there that I wouldn't use myself. It's a very good board. This is fine. It's just not my preferred method of switching. And this is what it comes to with modding. You know, you will find your own ways. Nobody is 100% bang on, guaranteed, right, and I'm not either. So yes, it works. Is it for me? Probably not, because I prefer to switch the input. Things a bit wonky and a little bit excess milliput use, but I did that when I was starting. I'd be interested to know if you know, who did this one. It'd be good to find out, just to have a chat and go from there type thing. But yes, so Davey, it's safe. You can use it, mate. There's nothing at all wrong with it, other than my personal preferences. So with that, I shall leave you in peace. If you guys want to see something like this put together, which I've done many times and I've still got the parts, I can show you how I do one of these in, say, a tin or anything like that. Tins are long gone. Show you how to mod the battery compartments and all that to get them to fit in a tin, so you can get twin 18650 in an Altoid tin or something like that. But all good fun. Cheers for giving it to me, David, to have a look at. I know you were just giving it randomly at Vapejam, and thank you for letting me take a look. I shall hand you back to Marco in the studio, where no doubt we'll be probably tasting juices or have done that, and there'll be some more fun stuff coming up. Back to Marco in the studio.
Yes, that was MFT for this week, with only a very, very small amount of double entendre. As chat have quite rightly pointed out, Gary's been fiddling with his knob, not for the first time. And there's a lot of ruler jokes going on at the moment as well, which I do find is quite well measured. Garry, any thoughts on next week? What do you reckon?
I haven't got a clue, but I have got, hopefully, the DNA 40 coming. I'm not sure when that's going to land. The week's running out, and hopefully it should land before the end of the week. If I've got time, I may start taking a look at doing the transplant. Other than that, I don't know. I'm going to have to flip the coin over the weekend and see what lands.
I've got a question for you from Kizzy. Could you add a fuse for extra safety rather than making changes to the wiring?
Yeah, you could do somewhere along the line, I'm sure, but it wasn't that. To me, that wasn't that it wasn't safe, and that's what I was trying to get at. It was a different way of doing it to the way that I've always done it. I preferred to switch the input so the mod was off when the button wasn't pressed. So it's not that it wasn't safe, and those boards are incredibly reasonable boards. I think. If you look back in our history, and I don't know if it's still there, but I did a little thing when some of the safety fuses come out, and I tested a lot of those on previous show, Tin Tip, and I did direct shorts on a lot of things. As people know, I had horrible luck with trying to make things blow up. But that board in a direct short scenario outperformed the safety device at the time for a direct short.
Very good. Spiritus Vapor said, could you repair his IPv2X 510?
I'll have to look at what those is, yes, but I'm sure we could have a bash. Of course we could.
I think the thing to do there, Spiritus, is to send Garry an email, or you can send us an email at vaperscene at vapetrails.tv or gary.dibley at vapetrails.tv, or get us on Facebook or Twitter. Send us a picture, send us some details, and we can see what we can do. How's that? Yes. And then if you've got things that need looking at, you know what to do. Get in contact with us. There are various ways. Yes. So we are done for tonight. I believe there's a show going on tomorrow night. It's not Matt. But keep an eye out on our Facebook page and obviously on Twitter for what that show is going to be. And then Thursday it's the Haze Hour with Dave, Dawn and more than likely Mr. Keith Hibbert. Monday, Drips and Tips, and Garry and I are back. That's this chap here. Da-da-da. We are back next Tuesday with more stuff, some more juice, and whatever else we can come up with in the next 6 days. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Tatty bye.
Vaperscene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.